very severe behavioral and emotional problems, and prior to that worked with adults in dual diagnosis. And yeah, so I have a wide range of experience. I love just the fact, like Rachel said, that we really individualize our care at Sage, and I'm really happy to be part of this this webinar today and share some of our knowledge and be able to hear what any questions you might have, how we might be able to help y'all. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so we're getting started, right?
I think we're going to move into our portion.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Stephanie, go ahead. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say thank you, ladies. Go ahead and get started.
Okay, awesome. I think when Jenica and I started talking about this webinar, we both felt so honored to be able to do this, and we discussed it. Probably the first thing to go into or define is anxiety and depression, and not because we all don't know, maybe someone who has anxiety, depression, or we have it ourselves, or we have a child that has it, but because it's just really important to revisit these, like, what do they actually mean? And so I also wanted to just add in that I think that right now during all the COVID pieces of our life, I think that's brought in some trauma. And, I heard a really simple definition of trauma recently, and it was that too much, too fast. And I think that's really powerful because when we talk about trauma, I don't sit around and think about that definition of it. And I loved the reminder of how simple that is and how it can be applied to so much for the individual person. So anxiety, distress, or uneasiness is what comes to mind for me in defining it. And fear. So distress or uneasiness and fear. Jenica, when you think of anxiety, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, like persistent worry, maybe like we have this, anxiety or stress response for a reason. Biologically, we're born with it, for facing danger. But when it's problematic is when there's like a perceived danger that may not actually, exist. And that's when the anxiety is not really serving its purpose, but becoming more, problematic within our life and those around us.
Yeah, it's like it goes on overdrive, I think. And,
mm-hmm.
and, I think it can be really exhausting. And, depression, feelings of severe despondency is kind of the Webster definition of depression. And I, in my history of working in mental health, I have done a lot of clinical surveying of suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation. And, there's a lot of questions around depression, and kind of a short soapbox I have on that is that depression, I think that no one asks, hey, tell me about that heavy weight you feel like you're carrying around that's really exhausting. Because I think that is a really big piece of depression, that it's not like on a checklist that we as clinicians really go over. And I think that it's so important to name it because it is part of what is so exhausting and kind of keeps us in the cycles of anxiety and or depression.
Yeah, and those symptoms, or how it manifests, is different, can be different individually, but also among like age groups, right? So
Mhm.
most often when we think of like the word depression, we think of someone who's very sad, right? It's kind of like a generalized idea of what it looks like, but for some other people it may look very differently. So for example, like children, it can look like, acting out behaviorally, right? That they're angry or they're upset all the time, or misbehaving, we might say. But there, is like an underlying cause for that behavior that we want to make sure that we're looking at, for all people, regardless of age. There's this underlying reason why we're feeling this way, why we're maybe acting or responding in different ways. And I know, Rachel mentioned, exhausting, like having a severe lack of energy, right? Being unable to get out of bed can be like a severe symptom of depression. Not finding pleasure in the things that you usually find pleasure in doing. So these are, kind of factors we want to consider when we're as clinicians, that we're looking at specifically and diagnosing, but also, you can be looking at yourself, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love this webinar because it talks about mental health with you and your family. And with a marriage and family therapy background, I think that and also with Jenica with the social work, kind of looking at the systems.
Mm-hmm.
One of the really important pieces I think we can talk about today is how the parents or the caregiver are really the foundational piece of the family. And when their mental health issues are, active or flaring up, for lack of a better phrase right now, I think that it trickles down and it affects the whole system, the children individually, and then how the system sort of operates as a whole. And so let's talk about mental health in the caregiver or the adult. And go ahead, Jenica, what happens there?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's a good point to bring up that, our role of parents, especially at this time while we're quarantined and shelter in place, and our roles have changed. Like we are, our responsibility has increased immensely. We've, in the normal world or whatever, we're parents and partners, and then we might go to a job and our kids might go to school, so there's like these other people involved in caring for our children, that we really rely on. And now that we're in this different environment, a lot more is put on us, and we might have these expectations of ourselves to perform or reach a certain goal that may feel unachievable right now, and that we might feel down on ourselves for not meeting those expectations of ourselves as a parent, as a partner, and working full-time possibly. I know everybody's situation is different, but we're all experiencing this collectively, as humanity, right? So I think there can be there's a sense of I think connection. I think what I'm trying to get across is that we're not alone in this, that we others are experiencing very similar feelings we are. But absolutely, the parent is the person, within the family system that's holding a lot. They're holding the most, and they're holding a space for their children, right? And the idea is to have what children need, basic need of children, of all people really, but within the family system, is that feeling of stability and security. And that's the parents are the one that's creating that environment. And for the parent, when they're experiencing that anxiety or depression themselves, how are they able to be that for their family member? So I don't know, Rachel, do you have any thoughts on that? I can
Yeah, no,
add
I
a
think
little
you
more.
said it perfectly. Like I loved what you're saying about the holding the space, because I don't know that we as parents or caregivers think about this day to day, that we're space holders. I don't wake up in the morning and like kind of look at myself in the mirror as I'm getting ready and think about how I'm a space holder. If you do, you might really want to pursue a career in mental health, because you are ahead of the game. So but it's so true. And like Jenica said, I think we do hold space for our families, or whoever it is that you live with or interact with, pretty intimately day to day. And if my mental health or Jenica's mental health or your mental health is not really managed, I mean, that's the place you're coming from, right? So you're holding space, maybe depressed, you're holding space, anxious. Well, how can you even hold space if you're depressed and exhausted? Or if you're just really depleted because right now you're working full time and you are trying to figure out your kid's schooling, or you have a child with special needs in some way, or whatever the circumstance, you have a really spoiled brat dog who needs your attention a lot. So the reality is that we are space holders, and as parents and caregivers and therapists, and as partners and teachers and frontline workers. So what are you doing? And this is, I think, the challenge is, what are you doing to take care of your own mental health and care, so that you're coming from a place of holding space in a way that feels doable instead of so overwhelming or exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's where, that idea of self-care comes in. And I know that phrase is, used a whole lot, but it's definitely really important to find ways that are going to like fulfill you, and that might look very differently than it did pre-COVID, right? Like maybe you had the ability to go get a massage once a week, or you were able to go for a run. I know we can still do some of those things, right? But it's like kind of exploring like what can I do on a daily basis that's going to fill my cup in a way that's going to give me enough energy and recharge to be there for myself and for the rest of my family. And, so really making it a priority to put those things first, whether it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, taking like 2 minutes, in the bathroom alone, if you get that, like 2 minutes to just sit and be quiet. So whatever that might look like to you, Yeah,
and I think what like I love what you're saying, because what I hear is just putting it at the forefront instead of it being at the very end of the list of the day, putting it at the top of the list of the day. And then if it's at the forefront, you're able to work in some of those, like, if it's at the forefront, maybe you would remember, oh, I don't have to run out of the bathroom. I'll just sit here an extra minute, or, thinking about what you can eat for lunch instead of, putting that to do later, or, taking a walk, getting some fresh air. I remember when I was a new mother, someone told me, just step outside and get a breath of fresh air. Yes. And that is so simple. And we all have access to that, yes, hopefully. But it would have never been something that I would have sat and thought about, right? That would have probably never come up in my mind as I'm a new mother and I'm exhausted and I'm just trying to keep everyone alive for the day. Mm-hmm. So, and postpartum, that's kind of a whole another webinar, but that's a piece of this. Maybe you're in a postpartum phase during COVID, or you have other kids too. So yeah, I think, and I think self-care is being thrown around a lot right now, which I love. However, some people feel guilty or selfish for having self-care. Yeah, I see Martha. Thanks for chiming in. Taking naps, playing. Yes, playing. Adults need to play too, right?
Yes.
That's really huge. And if that means like throwing some paint on a canvas and seeing what happens, do it. You know, if that's breaking dishes against a wall for fun, not out of anger, you know, do that, right? Like, but yeah, thanks, Martha. Taking naps, breath of fresh air, walk around the block, you know, petting an animal, right? That can be calming. That's why support animals are so helpful. Drinking water. I love that one. You know, snacks, implementing some snacks, right? In between meals. An apple.
Can I jump in there? Because we were talking about the acronym earlier, Rachel. HALT, H-A-L-T. Many of you have probably heard of that in some form in different contexts, but it's HALT. It stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So that's kind of part of that self-care, you know, taking care of yourself, is not allowing yourself to get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired, because that's when you can kind of get into a danger zone potentially. So it's like keeping in check, yeah, like have I eaten today? Have I eaten well today, right? Have I gotten enough sleep? Like have I reached out to somebody that you know, important to me? What was the other one? Angry. Yeah, keeping your emotions in check. So doing those important helpful self-care things. But yeah.
And we got a question from Rich, and says, Rachel, you mentioned a trickle-down effect. Is there also the potential of a trickle-up effect from children to parents? I say absolutely. I think that depending on the child's age, right, and the stage they're in, they've got they're their own individual person with their own feelings and behaviors and thoughts and you know, their own anxieties and worries. And depending on how many children are in your world, the trickle up can be very overwhelming or very joyful, right? If they're playing and they're happy and they're, you know, wanting to engage with you in a game or getting you to go outside. So yeah, I think that, you know, I like to say anxiety is contagious, and I think joy is contagious too. And so I think that there is a trickle up, and I absolutely love that question, because as a family system, or a system at all, no matter if it's family or a work system, and we're all affecting each other. And so the trickle up is just as powerful as the trickle down. Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
I think something jumped out at me, Rachel. I wanted to make sure we talked about too, is like what you know, we talked about like the adults and needs of the adults, but kind of like thinking about the stages of development for children and adolescents and those needs that pertain to their particular age group, right? So I know you know, you mentioned well, we talked about, you know, how children need that sense of stability and security, and that's coming from their caregiver. And also, you know, opportunities for choice, you know, depending on the age, you know, they're developing their sense of self, right? And they're wanting more opportunity to have a sense of control in their environment, right? I worked in a Montessori classroom for toddler age kids for like 4 years, and there's a lot about, you know, like help me to help myself, you know, so providing the environment for kids to help to do more independent type of work. But play and imagination, absolutely. I'm glad somebody mentioned that, and Rachel, you talked about that too. Play is important for us, for all of us, you know, to be able to let go, you know, and yeah, just it feels good. And for adolescents, you know, they're in a different, you know, they're searching for their identity at this point in their life, right? And I think, you know, given the current circumstances, like we as parents and as professionals, being really, really mindful that you know, that their lives have been, you know, extremely like like shifted, like as far as their social interactions, right? Because social activities and those relationships with friends are one of the most important things in their life at this stage of development, right? That's who they're finding themselves through their friend group, right? And so if they're home with their families nonstop, you know, that could be a source of you know, of anxiety and depression for them specifically, is having that lack of social interaction like they used to. And I think how parents can help with that is you know, maybe the adolescent is becoming more withdrawn or irritable, maybe doesn't want to communicate with the parents. But what we can do as adults is really, you know, empathize like the changes that they have had, the disruption they've had in their life, really validate, you know, that their feelings are about this are, you know, they're valid, they're important, and you know, figure out creative ways so they can still maintain, you know, that sense of connection with friends. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, and I wanted to throw a quote out about play that's by Benjamin Franklin. So it's interesting, I think, the historical piece, but it's we do not stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And
Yes, I love that.
you know, not that growing old is negative at all. I think it's actually really powerful, but I loved just that. I think it speaks to how powerful play is for all ages. And as adults, we forget that. It's not really like we don't wake up and think about how we're going to play today. And, you know, honestly, it's part of that sanity mental health piece, I think, whether it's an animal that helps you play or a child or a hobby or whatever. So yeah, I think, Jenica, you know, remembering the developmental stage is so important. And, you know, I think as therapists, we think about that because that's kind of our lens, but I don't think people day to day really, you know, consider that. Or maybe they consider it in a way that where they remember that they were in the stage and what it was like. But, you know, I think the lifespan of a person and the stage that people are in is really, has been really studied and is very concrete, while it may look different for each person, right? And you know, there's a book that's an old book called Passages by I can't think of the author right now, but she kind of each chapter is about a decade of life and what people go through in that decade. And but you know, as far as the human developmental stage, I think, you know, kids that are under 5 are in, you know, a really exploratory stage, both with life and themselves. And then, you know, we get into elementary school age kids and then middle school and high school. And I think that as children grow, like Jenica said, the social piece becomes so huge. And that is, you know, where the real, I think, struggle has become with this the COVID restrictions. And so, you know, some things that we talked about are like helping children, how can they connect, right? You know, social media is so big right now, but depending on if your child is can't be trusted with that, you know, what else can you do? You know, one of the things I suggest is like driving by their friend's house and maybe one friend is standing in the front yard and one friend's in the car and they can, you know, interact that way. I mean, it's obviously not ideal or maybe even what they want, but I think it's an outlet. It's an avenue of saying, I understand. At least you're saying to your child, hey, I understand this is important to you and I'm trying. Mm-hmm. And that provides for, I think, a more fluid relationship with your child, right? Because they feel heard. Mm-hmm. And I think we all know as humans, or we all have that need to feel heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. We got a question about partnership, and I've noticed it from Katie. Thanks, Katie. I have noticed at times both my husband and myself have gotten a little irritable and it can turn into a row. How do you recommend handling those situations? we personally just say time out. Why are we acting this way? And work it out. Do you have any suggestions for people on how to handle those moments? Yeah, I think that's, you know, what you mentioned that you're already doing is generally what I recommend for couples and partnerships. If either or both of the partners are too escalated emotionally for there to be a productive conversation to happen at all, it's important, you know, to have that agreement to be able to step away, and you know, step away, and so that one or both of you are able to be calm, both of you, but with the understanding that you'll come back to the same, whatever the issue was, you'll come back to it when you're both calm and able to work through it. You know, I think, you know, definitely that, you know, may be happening more frequently now. We're around our partners a lot more. We're around our family members so much more. We don't have these, you know, going to work, going to the gym, you know, there's just less of those kind of, I don't want to say escapes, but, you know, like the difference in location, right? We're all in the same place. So there's more opportunity for there to be irritability within the relationship, right? So I think just when you're, you know, calm, already in a calm place with your partner, you know, talking about that, like how can we handle, because arguments come up. That's a normal, natural part of a relationship, is that arguments will come up. So definitely taking a time out. Yeah, taking a walk without, so Rich just asked, taking a walk without the other partner. So yeah, whatever that timeout might look like, it could be, you know, a quick walk around the block, 10-minute walk around the block, stepping outside, you know, just kind of like removing yourself from that situation that's creating.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Rachel.
I was gonna say you could put in headphones, because that's a good like shelter in place COVID thing, you know, like you could go for a drive, you know, I mean, that is still sheltering in place, going for a drive, but you know, music is helpful, or whatever you listen to. Maybe you listen to a podcast, maybe you want to listen to your favorite song, maybe you're watching a show on your phone, you know, just, it's like, I think the Jenica is saying is like taking a break from the heat of the moment, whatever that is. And I also like to use, and I suggest this, this phrase, when it starts to feel like we're against each other, or we're in our own corners, which is, I'm on your side. Because it can be diffusing, but it's also just this reminder of like, hopefully this person cares about me or loves me, or, you know, you know, and like, we know we're a team. We're feeling at odds right now, but you know, usually we're a team and we feel like we're a team. And so just that reminder of, hey, I'm on your side, or we're on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Yeah. Rich just asked about any certain foods that may be stress inducers. I think the first thing that like pops into my mind, and I don't know a lot about nutrition, just to be totally honest, but like coffee, you know, that, you know, most of us love coffee. But Lauren's raising her hand.
I actually recently heard some people, and I bet there might be one person in this audience today that doesn't, and I would just love to know more about what they do drink.
Yeah, those who don't drink coffee. Yeah, I mean, that can certainly, if you're already experiencing like anxiety, caffeine's not gonna help. Caffeine is going to make it worse. For some, that might just be something you know that you just deal with, like me, for example. But
screaming coffee over there. I mean water. Sorry, Katie. Katie's screaming. She's screaming water. I'm secretly screaming coffee.
Yay, water. So
yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna have my second cup of coffee until after this meeting.
That was so professional of you.
I was like, I don't want to be shaking too much. But yes, water is absolutely going to help with your mood and your nerves and everything. Yes.
Yeah, but I think the food thing can really speak to kids, right? The sugar with kids. You know, and puberty, let's not forget, like, part of the stages here of like hormone changes, sugar, and just diet, the way that you're eating. And I think if there's depression and anxiety in the family, like maybe you're too tired to cook. And so that sort of promotes this like teaching of eating habits, too, which is really tough, right? If you're exhausted, cooking a dinner is not really at the forefront of your mind, right? And so if you can take care of your mental health, it'll affect your eating habits. It'll affect what your kids are eating, which affects the moods, which affects the behaviors,
Vice
and
versa too, though. If you're putting good, healthy things in your body, it's also going to affect your mood, right?
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, which will help you with your children or your adolescents who are moody or anxious or worried or have had too much sugar today, or whatever they're going through. Yeah, great point, Danica.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we got the food in there. You wanted to talk about the diet.
Did.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. I wanted to just point out to, like, distinguishing between like the normal range of symptoms and like what might be abnormal, just to make sure like people are getting the resources that they need. And then we'll answer the children's self-care question after this. But when, like, I don't know, maybe you can help me, Rachel. I think, when things are like affecting your daily functioning, your ability to do normal daily activities, right? Like if your anxiety is so high that you can't, pervasive. So yeah, if your, anxiety or your depression are so high, you can't get out of bed, you can't eat food, you're
not showering, you're not brushing your
showering, right? That's like a warning sign that you or the people that you're with, if these things are happening with your children or your partners, that they might need outside help, that seeking resources for their mental health symptoms is going to be probably important so that they don't get worse, right? Especially if we're looking at if there's any kind of suicidal ideation too, any thinking about hurting themselves, right? If it's severe cases, medication management might be necessary. Not in all cases. Most anxiety and depression can be treated with like cognitive behavioral therapy and sometimes along with medication management. But just wanted to point that out too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. We had a couple questions here, and I think they're important to look at,
yes,
because they kind of lead us to our next thoughts. One person asked about taking their medication regularly. I think that because we're so off of our routines and we've had to create new routines, and we're still trying to do that. I think like sleep hygiene becomes really important. Medication consistency becomes really important, right? Because one of the first questions that's asked if you go to see a therapist or a psychiatrist or get a clinical evaluation is, how's your sleep? Because sleep is a huge indicator of anxiety and depression and other issues that are coming up, trauma, and so grief. And so it's like, what does your sleep hygiene look like, and what does it look like for your kids, or your teenagers, or your child, or your partner? How is what they're doing affecting you, or how is what you're doing affecting your kids? And so sleep hygiene, medication regimes, that kind of stuff has got to be really taken seriously at a time like this, because we are so off our habits and our natural day-to-day schedule. And then one question was about teaching coping skills for children.
Can I jump in real fast,
Yeah.
Rachel, about the medication? So I think just as far as like being able to take your medication as prescribed at the right time, I think we live in a great age with technology. And so like setting a reminder on your phone You know, I do that, you know, for myself, you know, it's like every morning, 8 o'clock or whatever time, it reminds me to do whatever that necessary thing is. And so, because like, yeah, once, if you're, you know, your medications aren't going to be effective if they're not taken regularly or as prescribed, and things are going to get all out of whack. And so I think that could be a fairly simple fix, is putting like a reminder on your phone or an alarm.
For anything, right? For any of these, you know, like sometimes the watches have like drink water or stand up or take a deep breath, and we kind of blow them off. But the reality is that if we listen to those even half the day, or even like once out of the day, like our mood might be better, right? Our self-care is better. So even if you ignore it, at least it got put in your reality for the day, right? It got put in there, and maybe you did it, and that was better than the day before, and that's going to help you a little more. And just being realistic with yourself, like just because you didn't drink 3 glasses of water yesterday doesn't mean you can't do that today. You know, it's not. I think we get into shame cycles where it's like, oh, well, I ate a whole pizza today, and so now today I should just eat that cake because I've totally screwed up my goals for, you know, myself or my weight or my day or my week. And just kind of looking at today's a new day, and what can I do today? Maybe I'll brush my teeth an extra time. You know, I mean, that sounds so silly. Jenica's laughing at me, but I mean, these are real like, basic stuff, you know, stuff that we can do, you know, that help you feel better, right? When I brush my teeth, I feel better. And that's like, that's not clinical, right? This is just human.
I think really being aware of how you know, when you do those things, how you feel, like how you feel before, and really notice how you feel while you're doing it and how you feel after. Yeah. Like
shower and brushing your teeth is like so basic, and it's that human need, right? To just feel refreshed and clean and better. But, you know, I have kind of a soapbox I get into about coping skills, so I'll try not to bore y'all, but, you know, through being in mental health for 15 years, yoga and meditation for kids. Thank you, Martha. Absolutely. And I think yoga and meditation for kids has really taken off, and it's trending. And I absolutely love that. Paula's saying just making your bed. Oh my gosh. Just vacuuming, right? Just vacuuming, just sweeping, just, making your bed, right? It's about that environment you're in and it feeling, right? Like giving it, it's clean or clear. And so now your mind is clean and clear. I think Jenica and I have talked about that a lot at the office, just the organization of things.
Absolutely.
So, but what I wanted to say, and feel free to jump in, Jenica, is just that in my 15 years of being in mental health, I have seen this, trend about coping skills. And what I've seen is that a lot of families don't actively teach coping skills. And if you think about it, you know, I mean, not many people's parents sit down, unless you're like a therapist parent and you've even thought about this, but not a lot of parents sit down and say, okay, let's figure out how we're going to cope with life, or how we're going to cope with your bad day, or, you know, or some of the things you learn, like emotional eating. You know, it's like, you know, I remember to cheer me up, my mom would take me to get ice cream. Well, that's a really fun, playful kid thing to do, right? She wasn't trying to teach me to emotionally eat, but what happens is if I didn't learn to go take a walk, or if I didn't learn to breathe, then I'm just going to default to what was fun and felt good, right? And so what I've learned is parents don't sit around and teach coping skills. And so what happens is kids don't learn those, and then they go out into life and don't know what to do, right? Or they learn ones that they like don't really work anymore. And, you know, and we see that a lot with addiction, right? You know, drinking so much at whatever age they're at is just not working for them anymore. And so I think as parents, if we can, or as people, if we can really think about 3 coping skills that you try to be consistent with in your home that are healthier or on the side of health, that can really, like, for years to come, could help your child. Even one, I feel like I'm kind of being lofty with 3, you know, just even one that just really works,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
riding a bike, yoga, you know, some people run, some people lay down, some people, you know,
Writing, journaling,
Thank you.
art, making
Art,
music. There's like,
baking,
yeah, the list is endless. Can I jump in for a second, Rachel?
please.
And hey, Paula, I love seeing your name coming up. Something that we would do, teaching like a breathing technique for toddlers at the school I was at, was something called the silence candle. And it's something that I just loved so much. I worked in a classroom age 18 months to 3 years old. And if you know, it was just beautiful sitting around a candle and expecting children, you know, at this age to sit in silence. And it was a very like playful kind, you know, in a way, like well, actually, it was very serious. It wasn't playful, but it was a beautiful thing where we would, you know, have this ritual about counting, you know, the seconds with our hands. And, you know, then after a certain amount of seconds, somebody would get to snuff the candle out, right? So it was, but we were breathing in and out the whole time. And so instilling this sense of, it was basically a meditation. Paula can, you know, I've worked with Paula, so she still does that. But you know, teaching these like kind of fun breathing techniques for even the youngest of children, and how to, you know, sit in silence and be with themselves and their breath. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. And I wanted to add, you know, that idea that when you take a deep breath, it gives your nervous system a break.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I don't know about y'all, but I think giving my nervous system a break sounds like a pretty great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's see, can you demonstrate that silence candle breathing here on the call?
Yeah, I can. I feel like I need something to represent a candle. So we would I mean, and this is a group of 13 children with 3 guides, 3 teachers, right? So with your 1 or 2 or however many children you have at home, you know, it you know, it might be more manageable. But we actually did it. We would do it with these young children, and it's amazing, you know, their capabilities and focus that you can develop over time. But what we would do is have everyone sit in a circle, and we would lay out the mat on the floor. We would place the candle in the middle of the circle, and we as adults are setting the tone the whole time. We are silent. We are
Did you
not
turn the lights
speaking.
out, Danica? Did you turn the lights?
Yes, we turn the lights out, which I won't do right now. But yes, thank you. Turn the lights out and light the candle. And you know, we would prepare the children before, say, okay, we're gonna, you know, do silence candle now, and we're gonna sit in silence, you know, for however many seconds. And we're gonna count, and we're gonna breathe. So we would light the candle and breathe in. And when we were done, we would pass a candle snuffer, an actual candle snuffer, to the chosen person of the day. It was a very coveted job. And they would take it, and they would actually, you know, snuff the candle out. And then we would not clap, but do the whole jazz hands thing. But anyway, it was a very like special time of the day. It was right before nap time. So it really set the tone for quiet and silence, and it was, yeah, it's like early childhood meditation, basically.
Yeah. Any last questions, or anything, you know, that we didn't cover that you were hoping? Can't promise we'll have an answer, but we could try.
I don't think if there's anything.
What about anxiety related to the reopening?
Oh,
Thank you. We're talking about that here at Sage as well.
yeah.
Yeah. So anxiety related to this is so, again, I have to say I'm back to this trauma thing about too much, too fast. And I think I can't speak for everyone. I think that a lot of people experience too much, too fast. And now it's like, oh, let's go back. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm still in too much, too fast. I'm still processing that. And so I think what I would challenge and suggest is to think about what you need to feel safe. So, what do you need to feel safe to go back to your job? Or what do you need to feel safe to send your kid back to preschool or to a babysitter's house or a friend's house? Or, what is it that you're needing? And then kind of surveying that and then saying, okay, what of these can I control? Like at Sage, we're discussing wearing masks here at the office. And then one of the therapists brought up, well, it's going to be hard to emote as a therapist with clients. And that's true, right? Because your mouth and half of your face is covered. And so we get a lot of information from our body language and our facial expressions. And so that's a great point. But, does it feel safer right now for us to know what's being emoted, or does it feel safer for us right now to feel like we're managing symptoms? So my challenge would be as to what do you feel like you need to feel safe to go back to wherever you're going? Jenica, any?
I don't think I have anything, but I know that's definitely a question. And I know that's something like some clients have shared too, is an anxiety about that reopening specifically. And I felt that myself, just as soon as, the phasing or whatever has started of reopening, it's like, I'm not ready for that. Like I'm, in this new normal, and, it's adjusting to that. And so but no, I think you make a really good point about really focusing on what you feel, what your feelings are of safety.
Yeah. And I think honoring it, right? Honoring it in a way that's human, and then, but not allowing it to keep you stuck, but just allowing it and saying, hey, this makes sense after all this sort of too much, too fast that I just went through. Yeah. Any other last burning questions that we can attempt to answer?
Thank you both so much for being with us today. We are so grateful to everything that Sage has done in the last 6 months since joining. It's a really good partnership, and we really appreciate the information. I'm Stephanie again with the Austin LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Rich, can you hear me? Can you speak?
Yes. What would you like me to say?
I'm going to kick the mic over to you to tell everybody thank you for being here, and a little bit about the committee.
Rachel and Jenica.
It's Jenica.
Jenica, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I heard your name pronounced about 500 times during this, and I completely forgot. Jenica and Rachel.
It's okay.
I can't thank you guys enough, both of you, for the expertise that you have lent to us today during this webinar. There are so many good points that were brought forward, and as we had mentioned before this webinar, when we had our Health and Wellness Committee meeting last week, focusing on children was going to be an important aspect of this committee going forward. And so the information that you have shared with us today is very valuable. And I hope all of our, not our panelists, but the people that came on and watched this webinar will have come away with something that they can impart to their friends and family members to help us get through this crisis even more. So thank you both very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved being a part of it.
Me too, absolutely.
Stephanie, thank you for helping get this all set up.
Absolutely.
Gunnar, thank you for being a part of the call today as well.
Absolutely, that's why I'm here. Thank you again to Rachel and to Jenica. Lauren, I know you were here.
Lauren, thank you, yes.
As well. Did you want to share anything just just a hot minute if there's anything that you want to update us with, or if you just want to say hi.
Yes, hi. Thanks for
All
doing
right.
the webinar today.
All right.
Can y'all
Well,
hear
then
me
if
okay?
we have no further questions, I think, actually,
Gunnar, I think you're
yeah.
frozen.
Yeah, Gunnar, you're frozen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're frozen. Sorry.
Okay, take it over, Lauren.
I'm frozen.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
And we
Lauren.
can hear you, Lauren.
Okay, good. Well, just wanted to say thank y'all so much. Stephanie, you're amazing. Thank you for your help and welcoming Sage to these webinars. And just quickly say, I know Jenica and Rachel went over this before, but Sage Recovery Austin, or Sage Recovery Wellness Center, has switched to telehealth, HIPAA compliant telehealth services. So we're offering counseling, IOP, and PHP for adults and children and adolescents online. So we're offering daytime, evening, weekend hours to accommodate people, working professionals. So of course we have the counseling center aspect of it. And then please, our website has some free online support groups as well. And then we also have Sage Recovery Villa, which is our boutique, 15-bed boutique program for primary substance use disorder and now primary mental health as well. And that's located in Maynard, Texas. And that we specialize there in working with substance use disorder, dual diagnosis, of course, mental health, as well as, of course, a lot of trauma. And we also specialize in working with working professionals, business executives, anybody, any working professionals, college students, et cetera. So thanks again, guys. If you have any questions, reach out and visit our website if you have further questions, www.sagerecoveryaustin.com. That's it.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
You too. Take
Thank
care.
you all. Take care.
Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.